Oh, we're live.
Oh, wow.
What?
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this Facebook Live Q&A for the movie Ash. And that's available to stream via VIF's virtual theater selections at vif.org, VIFF.org, and on video on Vimeo on demand and via iTunes from July the 28th. My name is Tom Charity, and I'm the year-round programmer at the Vancouver International Film Festival's Van City Theatre. And with me, kind of virtually, we have Andrew Hukuliak, the writer-director of Ash, and the two leads from the film, Chayla Horsstyle and Tim Guinea. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. Ash received its world premiere at VIFF, Vancouver International Film Festival, last fall. It's a BC film. It's a work of challenging moral inquiry and searing cinematic intensity. And so if you haven't checked it out, you really should. I warned you, are likely to broach some material that might be considered spoilerific. So if you'd like to check back on this at a later date, I'm sure you'll be able to do so. If you saw the film back at VIFF, or you saw it earlier today, then perhaps you have questions, and we would invite you to submit those via the Facebook page. Please note that we won't be seeing those live. They'll be kind of passed on to us via an intermediary. So there would be some delay there, but we will try and get through as many questions as we can in the next 25 minutes or so. Before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting virtually on the lands of the Coast Salish peoples, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. And I would like to thank the movie's distributor, Game Theory Films, for coordinating this Q&A. Now that's all tidily done. I would turn to you, Andrew. It's your film.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could tell us, I know it's a very personal film, and it comes from your own experience. Perhaps you could tell us about that and what seeded this movie.
Yeah, so the film is set in Peachland, which is a small town of about 5,000 people. That's where I grew up, and I went to school there. I went to the beach there. I did many things, and I had a friend all through my childhood who I spent a lot of time at his house, and I spent a lot of time with his family, and it was many years later. I was on the road. I'm in a band called We Are the City, and we were on tour. And I got a text with some really concerning news about the father of my friend. And there was some pretty horrific charges laid against him. And, the charges were intense and didn't really, like the headlines of the story didn't really have a lot of nuance or explanation as to what actually happened, or why it happened. And what I witnessed after the news broke was a lack of nuance, lack of compassion, lack of empathy, and it really just started me on this journey. Hearing the story and hearing his experience started me on this journey of really examining and wanting to examine if this is happening, there's these things that happen in our society that are really hard to deal with and hard to talk about. But if they're happening, what is our responsibility as a community to somebody who's suffering these conditions, and what is our sort of appetite in these regards? We love scandal. We love moral superiority. We love putting ourselves over other people. I just kind of feel like, then what is the correct response to this? As somebody who is totally on the outside, witnessing it happening or reading the headline, what is your responsibility? Is it to judge, or is it to be more informed? What and how will you be satisfied? Like, is punishment, what type of punishment is satisfying? So there's all these kind of like uh, themes that I thought were really interesting to explore, and so that's definitely where we went in the film. And there's you know, there's this whole other aspect with the wildfires, which I thought was quite a compelling backdrop. And so yeah, that was another filmmaking challenge. The whole thing was a challenge. Okay, it was a challenge in shooting, and it was a challenge in performances as well. I'm sure Tim and Shayla can speak more to that. You know.
Perhaps we should give a brief synopsis of the setup of the film for anybody who hasn't seen it. So the lead character played by Tim is called Stan, and he's a local reporter.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a local reporter. He's chasing some forest fires that are threatening the town of Peachland, and as he's doing that, he's putting everything into it. He's got this small website that's he's put all of his eggs in that basket, and we follow him in this pursuit of success, and we start to see the build of possibility, and then it all comes crashing down with these charges. And the rest of the film deals with the fallout from those charges, and both with him and his wife, Gail, and him and the public, and him versus himself. It's really complex.
The wildfire aspect, you're saying that was an extraneous element, that wasn't something that was something you invented for the film.
Well, I mean, it's still loosely based in reality. The true story, the reporter was reporting on a forest fire the year prior to these charges. And I mean, it's a reality for British Columbia that we see these fires all the time. And it's alarming how people will go about their day normally, and in the background, there's this massive, plume of smoke and this fire that's raging day and night. And I thought that was a really interesting comparison to the sort of inner turmoil that somebody can feel. And yet everybody's just going about their day as if, business as usual.
So in turning this story into a screenplay, how long a process was that?
It was a couple years. There's a lot of research and development that had to take place. I spoke to a lot of psychologists and watched documentaries on thought crimes and OCD, and read a lot of books. And so that was I wanted to do justice to the sort of ethical responsibilities I had. So that was a big chunk of the writing stage. And then yeah, the screenplay itself, I think, took almost a year to complete as well. So it was a couple of years, definitely.
And you were coming off the back of a very highly regarded film, Violent, certainly a film that was recognized in Canada as one of the best films of the year. It was released in 2014, I think. Was named the best Canadian film at VIFF that year, and was in one of Canada's top 10. So I'm assuming the industry was interested in working with you. And were there early on any indications of cold feet around taking on such difficult subject matter?
Yeah, that's it's been a thing the whole way along. And to me, that my conviction was so, I spent a lot of time reflecting on it, and I felt like it was a really important thing to discuss. Like I said, I think that we just have a big lack of, ability to address these issues. And so I thought, well, I have to do something. I'm not going to make a movie that, just toes the line or something like that. We have to go to some places. And so, I mean, in comparison to Violent was also, I think, kind of challenging for industry as well. It's like, oh, it's in Norwegian, can't really market it, doesn't have the Canadian, crew quota to be able to, be considered Canadian content. So, yeah, it was similar, I suppose. And it's not that I'm even like particularly like ornery or anything like that. I don't know why. I guess it's just I feel like anything's a waste of time that that doesn't really get some get some things moving. Let's do some work.
Well, tell us about the casting process.
Oh,
How did you arrive with these two?
yeah. Well, the story is quite interesting. Chayla, I sent the script to you very early on, and we had a phone conversation about it, and we had a really good thing going. I think
we had a wonderful conversation, a wonderful introduction. There was just no way I was going to be able to do it because of the schedule of the series that I was working at the time. It was exactly overlapping, and I had to be in Vancouver for that. And you were shooting in Peachland, so I loved it. But I was like, I gave you a list of names of actors who would be great as Gail, because it was like, well, I can't do it, but you should call, and gave you, I think, a list of 8 to 10 names of people I thought who would slay, and they would, quite frankly.
Yeah, and then the production was pushed back. So because we lost our lead actor, we had a totally different lead actor who was playing Stan, who dropped out like days before we went to camera. So that pushback on the schedule was kind of serendipitous in a way for working with Chayla, because all of a sudden she did have these like tiny windows of availability that she really liked. You were so busy, like it was nuts. You came in and it was like we hit the ground running, and then
literally. I think I got off the plane on day one. Tim got there the night before I did. I got off the plane and went straight into hair and makeup, and we shot one of our final scenes first. I was like, nice to meet everybody. Okay. All of us were. I mean, you guys, all the crew knew each other because you guys have worked together before. But Tim and I were like, hey, everybody. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and then Tim, you received the script, and it was like you were like in Kelowna 2 days later shooting.
Yeah, it was crazy fast thing.
Yeah.
I would like to take credit for Tim Guinea coming on board this picture. Thank you very much, because we share a manager. And when my manager saw it, he was like, I think Tim's available. And so it all just it was very serendipitous the way that it all.
But you got me the job, so thank you. Because I love this movie. And I'm proud of this movie. And I find it extraordinary what you made, Andrew and Chayla. And anyhow, bless you for chucking my name in the barrel.
So had you two worked together before, Tim and Chayla?
We did a television series. I don't know if that we ever had a scene together.
We didn't. We existed in different worlds on Hell on Wheels, but we became friends because we're both in Calgary at the same time to shoot. Although we never actually acted together. I don't think there was ever a crossover scene.
Yeah.
But we were friends, so this was a lovely opportunity. Listen, anytime that any of us have the chance to work with friends, I don't know about you guys, but I certainly grab at it whenever I can. So this is, especially on a show like this and a script like this, it's so important to have, I found, some kind of a basis and relationship between these two characters, just to establish, like, we had history straight out of the gates, which was, I think, very important and served us. Yeah.
Tim, I'm kind of blown away that you could throw yourself into a movie like this without any time for preparation. What's the challenge there, and what are the skills you need as an actor to just, because it's such a demanding journey that your character Stan goes through.
Yeah, and this frankly, honestly, the script was kind of scary when I read it, and which is actually really exciting for an actor. I think that if you're a little frightened, it's a good thing. And as Andrew said, I think I read it, and we had a phone conversation, and as I remember it, the next day I was on a flight that I live in a old farm in upstate New York, and it was several flights to get up into Peachland, and met Andrew the next day. And Andrew, I met Andrew, and then I met the producer who was Andrew's brother. And then I started meeting the key people, and they were all Andrew's friends, and some of them were in a band. And I thought, oh God, this is a disaster. I'm in a movie. It's just a bunch of jerks, and look at what the subject is. But then I discovered they were, and I mean this, they're like geniuses, these guys. I would work with them anytime, anywhere. And with Chayla, who is two of my big happy jobs lately have been Hell on Wheels and this. So I think Chayla may be the glue in that. But
okay.
the emotional demands of the thing were extraordinary. And especially the first week and longer than that, I was really leaning on Andrew and really going, help me make sure this is exactly where this is going. And I really didn't have time to check myself. I had to trust that he would tell me if I was being over the top and pull me back, and just go for it, because I didn't feel like I had the capacity to judge myself and go to the emotional places I needed to go to. And I may have gone over the top, but it really came down to sort of really trusting Andrew and feeling like he had my back, which I totally believe he did. And Chayla too. I think we paid attention to each other a lot.
Something really magical happened on that very first day of shooting. And it was, for anyone who's seen the film, it's the scene when we're in the hotel towards the end of it. And because Tim and I had never acted before together, we'd never acted before. It was our first time. It was such for me as an artist, it was such a magical moment to be able to step into this scene and to see your just innate ability just burst through without having any tricks to fall back on, because there was no preparation time. And as soon as that first scene did what it did, I had this just this sense of incredible trust and faith that we were going to be okay. Because I signed on 4 days beforehand. You did 2 days beforehand. There wasn't time to really overthink anything. And if we didn't have that level of trust with Andrew and with the rest of the crew and each other, it would have just fallen apart at the seams immediately. It was as if we just went whoop, and everybody was in without question. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being very terrified too, because that scene is such a important scene for your characters, and it's like, it's the end, that's the end result of where you land. And so that was kind of freaky to commit that early on to this sort of conclusion. But also in a way it gave us a little bit of a compass,
yeah,
for the rest of the production.
Yeah, it was the true north
from
that point moving forward.
Yeah.
Or backwards.
Yeah.
There's something too, Tom, you mentioned the sort of moral, ethical challenge around this movie for the audience, which is to me part of what's really exciting about it. And I think on some level with a movie like this, everybody, the director, the actors, the DP, everybody, you've got to just leap in full force. You don't have the ability to lay back and know that the car chase is going to work in Act 3, and it's just not going to be that. So if everyone isn't there and alive in the moment in their work in every department, you're in a lot of trouble. And somehow I love this movie. I feel like one of the irritating things, if you've worked with a director and you've loved it, is you want to bug them into using you over and over. and you can't just have a normal relationship. And it's to some degree what I feel with this thing. And weirdly, with Hell on Wheels too, with John Worth, who was the producer on that with Chayla. But there is something where you had to leap in with both feet. And I love, by the way, the audience who is daring enough to let themselves be challenged. I mean, that's the final part of the company coming in, and bless them, bless anybody who's come and watched this.
My neighbor is fixing his motorcycle. I'm just going to close a couple extra windows and doors. I'll be right back.
Andrew, could you talk about to what extent does it fall on you to mold the performances, and how much autonomy do you give the actors, especially when you're talking about a key scene at the end like that? Are you already kind of suggesting shadings and nuances for them to bring out, or are you looking to see what they bring to it?
Definitely looking to see what they bring to it. I mean, that's a big part of my process anyway, is really trying to foster a truly collaborative environment, something where people feel empowered to bring what they think is the best to the scene. And, you know, there was some really magical moments when we were shooting where, you know, take one was the take, you know, and when that happens, that's so, it happened actually quite often. Like, we do only 3 or 4 takes, and it would be like, that's the scene, we're moving on. And yeah, I mean, I would like to think that there's like I think Chayla, you were saying about just like there's that trust, you know, as soon as the everyone's kind of finished feeling each other out, like, okay, what are we working with here? There is like a stake that each person has in the film. And so yeah, I mean, I'm just a collaborator in the mix with everyone.
So one of the questions that's been submitted on Facebook is about what were the most challenging moments from this project, and also the most rewarding, and those may or may not be the same thing, I suppose. Certainly, I would imagine from the outside that rolling around in the forest, in the soot and the ash that gives the film its name, naked and lacerating yourself, that has to be a pretty tough call. Was it? Would you say that was the toughest thing for you, Tim?
You clearly don't know my marriage. That's basically Tuesday night for me. Yeah, that was well, that was one of those ones where I was terrified of, you know, going over the top, and the nudity is an extra element of like, oh, and talk about a scene that you had to kind of go for, you know. There was no, you know, one of the things I actually remember talking to Andrew a lot about in this movie was I don't want to cry through the whole thing. And I felt like there was there is entirely a possibility with this character just to begin weeping about halfway through and not stop. And that was the thing that scared me a lot, that was challenging to me in thinking about it. The subject matter is challenging. The character has a psychological component that you want to be honorable in dealing with, because people have that issue. So you don't want to be cartoonish, you don't want to make fun, and you don't want to soft pedal either. You want, and that's hard. And also I think the thing of this character is accused of something as egregious as a human being can be accused of. And you want that to be horrifying and to simultaneously find a way for us to have compassion, hopefully. So I guess those were the big ones.
And Chayla, what about you?
I mean, I was certainly scared of how to tell this story, going off of what Tim's talking about, how to communicate this story in a way that honors the POCD and what Stan's character, who is based on someone, as Andrew said, who was going to be watching all of this. And I felt I was scared to mess it up for the sake of the fact that there were real people whose stories we were telling. Gail and Stan they were right up the street, literally, as we were shooting. So that freaked me out. In terms of logistically and the actual shooting of things, I don't remember. I mean, it was 30 years ago. I remember it being a joyful experience. We didn't work ridiculous long days. That was lovely. It's never ideal going back and forth between projects and having to flip in and out of two different characters, particularly when one of them is contemporary and one of them is a Nazi in the 1960s. You don't want any leakage between those two things. To be clear, that's the other show, not this one. That'd be a plot twist. Yeah, it was really just an artistically rich experience for me. It didn't come with tremendous challenges. It really didn't. It felt great. Yeah.
Andrew, I assume, it was all a massive challenge. Hopefully it's all been worth it and rewarding. But is there a specific thing that you would like to mention in that context?
Well, I mean, I think that what made it challenging is also what made it rewarding. The going into the fray and just saying, like, this is what the film is about. We're going to emerge at the other end with a finished film. And so there's lots of stuff that was surrounded, lots of issues and challenges that faced us every day. Like, we lost locations, we lost actors, we faced pushback from the community. And then, it's a tough film to sell. It's a tough film to market. So the fact that we're here with a film that I'm really truly proud of, and I think is a great contribution to the conversation, that's the reward, and the fact that the family, like Jayla said, like, the fact that the family watched it and feels good about it, that's the reward. The fact that, we can go with a film played at Woodstock, and then after the film, somebody asks, like, okay, so, but in real life, did the person, did he go to jail? And I said, no, the charges were dropped and he took a peace bond. And then the audience erupted with applause.
Wow.
And that for me was a moment of great reward, that I was in the presence of an audience who felt empathy for the main character.
Yeah. Well,
So, by the way, I'm just going to interrupt Tom for 1 second. Thank you, Viv, for being and Woodstock for having the courage to bring us out. Well played.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Another question's just come in, so I'll throw that into the mix, even though I haven't read it yet. This is for Andrew. Violent obviously had a lot of who you are personally within it. Your questions with life, death, and love. You mentioned the relationship you have with the family in this film. But what was brought out of you personally in, I guess, creating this project?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's the huge personal story component. There's also, I mean, a lot of my upbringing. I was raised a Christian, and so my whole life I was, taught to turn the other cheek, and that forgiveness is paramount, and compassion is paramount. And so those themes are definitely a big part of myself in the film, is sort of seeing or attempting to see the humanity in anyone. And and then, I mean, even in the pursuit of Stan, the pursuit of career advancement, that's something that actually is really a deep struggle within myself. This sort of why are we doing this? Like, why are we trying to build our empire? And what happens when it all comes tumbling down? Like, what is your life then reduced to? And that reduction, is that actually maybe a more pure state? And so yeah, that's also a huge component for me, is like that pursuit of career advancement.
Yeah, nice. There's a comment that was submitted on Facebook, which I'll share with you, and it seems like a culmination really of many of the themes we've been addressing here. It's a comment that's addressed to you, Tim, and it's from Garrett.
Yeah.
The forest scene really hit hard for me. I could sincerely imagine what it was like for my dad. You did so well.
Yeah, that's my friend, Garrett.
Wow.
Yeah.
So on that note, please check out the film if you have not already done so. As I mentioned, you can go to viff.org, viff.org, and if you stream it via our virtual theater, then half of your rental fee will go to support VIFF, and we would sincerely appreciate that. It's also available on Vimeo on demand, and from July the 28th, it will be available via iTunes. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Chayla. And thank you, Andrew, for joining us, and to Game Theory Films also.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Tom.
Biff.
Yeah. Yay.
All right.